Oh, What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dead Funny Review Show. I'm your host, Chris. Joining me today are my co-hosts, Kelsey, Mandy, and Cody. And today, we're here to talk about the boys! And I don't mean the Dallas Cowboys, because they fucking suck. Hashtag, I know you're going to watch this, Joey. Eat a dick. Anyways,
are the Dallas Cowboys frequently called the boys?
They call themselves them boys.
I did not know that. Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's scoot right on past that.
Right on past it, exactly. Let's go. So, check it out. Them boys, I thought it was fucking great. I fucking love the show. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great... I mean, it was so fucking good compared to the comics. It was right there on par with the comics. That was.
Have you read
awesome.
The comics?
Yes, I went back and read them since me and you had that podcast.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. So really, really good. There's a lot of stuff in there that, man, like I love Billy Butcher so fucking much. I'm so glad to see that actor doing something again. Because I think the last time I saw him was like Doom, and that was like fucking forever ago.
Karl Urban.
Okay, you just live under a rock.
Probably. That's.
Wait. That's the one who played Bones in the new Star Wars Trek, right?
Yeah. Also, something
so don't watch
done
Star Trek.
since that movie from 30 years ago that Chris
just don't watch Star Trek. So there's that.
So you live under a rock.
Star Trek out. With Star Trek out, that's it.
3 blockbuster movies, and you're like, good to see Karl Urban doing something again. Like, well,
he's amazing.
Okay,
I do really like Karl Urban though, so I'm with you.
Okay, right away, Chris. You found my highest praise for the show, and also my biggest critique.
Really?
Yes, Karl Urban is very clearly an A-list actor that they spent a lot of money to get. And then they got all these other hacks to pretend to act next to him. And I'm like, why is he so much better and more engaging and more charismatic than everybody else? And I'm like, oh yeah, everyone else hasn't been in anything. Except for some reason... They get Simon Pegg and they have him play Dad.
Oh, well,
right?
Simon Pegg.
I was pretty upset about that. I'm not gonna lie.
There's a reason why he's there, though. You know that, right?
No,
educate us.
Okay, so I can't remember the exact thing, but I want to say he's the inspiration for. I think it's Huey.
Yeah.
I
know what you're talking about, but I can't remember it either. But he's an Easter egg, basically.
Yeah, I looked this up a while ago, or I read something about it. So he actually was the inspiration for one of the characters, and I think at this point, it's weird because I agree with you. I didn't realize he was the dad at first because he's really young, but I think he wasn't quite right to do the character that they designed, that he inspired.
I honestly
so they were like.
He was an Easter egg.
Yeah. So he is an Easter egg.
Okay, that actually makes sense.
Because I looked it up the moment I saw him, I was like, this has to be some Easter egg.
Yeah.
This has to.
Yeah.
Because why would you take somebody that amazing and put him in that small of a role?
For 4 seconds. It felt weird. But it makes a lot more sense if it's an Easter egg. So that gets a pass. Then the other issue is just Karl Urban is a better and more charismatic actor than everybody else except for Starlight. Starlight's been in
they did Starlight well.
Yeah.
You didn't like Homelander's acting?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it was okay.
I realize he's a creepy, weird character, but I thought the actor did a really good job.
You know who did the best acting in that show? Fucking
Karl Urban.
No, fucking Black Noir, dude. He was fucking on it, dude. His acting was fucking top notch.
Okay.
I'm just gonna get this out of the way. Easily my favorite person in the 7. Easily. Dude was a badass.
Is he designed to just be Deadpool? Like a nice version of Deadpool?
You mean a quiet version of Deadpool?
Yes.
A silent version of Deadpool?
Yes.
And I don't know if I'd say nice. He was fucking people up, so I'm not sure how much of the nice aspect was in there. Even Starlight was like, hey, how's it going? He's just like, yeah, fuck you, bitch. Just walked right past her. Didn't even say a word. It's like...
Well, okay, so I'll say this. The one scene in the show that nailed the joke, and I actually chuckled, is when he calls everyone into the boardroom, and he's like,
yes.
Homelander's giving them a talking to, and he's like, except you, Black Noir, you're fine. And he's just fine. He's just still sitting there, like, Does anyone ever explain you like, no, perfect, great character. Everyone else, nah. But
He also has that other
okay.
one where they're all sitting there talking, and fucking Translucent was bitching about the movie rights and stuff like that, and how people were pirating the movie. And he's like, guys, it's Starlight's first time being in a meeting with the Seven. What she's gonna think if we're all sitting here crying and complaining. I want to talk about how many people we saved a day. Let's start with you, Black Noir. And I was just like, this is so great. Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Okay, so real quick, I found it. Simon Pegg actually declined playing Huey. Huey was who he was designed after. Quote, I was never up for it. Huey is in his early 20s, so I was never gonna play Huey.
Yeah.
But he's really happy. The guy, Jack Quaid, I didn't know this, the main actor, is the son of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan.
Wow. You would have figured he'd be better looking.
That's what I was about to say. None of their looks.
Oh, that's funny.
Damn. Got
I
shit
do
on
think
a
he's
podcast
saying-
that he'll
Cody
never,
for
or a
going
review
there.
show that he'll
Although-
never see.
Meg
think he
Ryan was
was that.
attractive, but I want to say Dennis Quaid was kind of weird looking, wasn't he?
No, Dennis Quaid's fine.
Okay.
He was
well,
a generation older than us, so it always it feels weird to find him attractive. But no, Dennis Quaid's fine.
No, yeah, he's attractive.
Wow. Yeah, no, he
is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not who I thought Dennis Quaid was.
I didn't think the guy was that Jack Quaid. I didn't think he was that bad. He was passable.
I mean, he was better looking than me. Is that?
I wasn't talking about better
qualification?
looking. I was talking about his acting.
Oh,
but
well,
okay.
No, I act better than he does.
Yeah. So the only thing that I really thought got on my nerves, and I get why they were doing it, was just the fact that his fucking dead girlfriend just kept showing up. As,
Oh,
a
no, that I
reminder.
didn't mind.
That to me just, it was because like she just always stood there with the same expression. I was like, and it was more along the lines that it felt like it took too long.
I
Like,
get
she
why
would be
they
there for
did
like
it.
2 minutes, and I'm like, bruh, you're dead. I don't care. I don't fucking care anymore. Like, you're
It's kind
dead.
of what the whole
Move
show
on.
is about, Chris.
I know.
Well,
I get
and like
that.
I get why they did it, because like there was a point, I think I hit the 3rd episode and I forgot that she died like a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and then in the 1st episode he's already talking to Starlight and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The
Wait a
show
minute.
suffers from a pacing issue.
It does. for
It
sure.
does.
Yeah.
Which most shows that you can binge don't have that pacing issue
Yeah.
anymore. And this show was clearly, it was released in a way where you could binge it. It was released in a format you could binge it. Like everything about this was, we're
It's a
expecting you to
10-hour
binge this
movie.
show.
Yeah.
They could have
And-
definitely had more episodes and paced
They
it out
could have
little
done a
better.
lot with it to get over that pacing issue and to reflect a little bit more, because I think one of the first times he was talking to Starlight, he was experiencing, like, you saw him realize, I need her for what we're trying to do, so I'm going to engage in this flirtation. And you saw that at first, but you didn't see that in his second interaction. You didn't see that in his 3rd interaction. You
Yeah.
just saw, once he got over it once, he was all into Starlight. And they could have done that. They could have done that better. They always
Well,
could.
It definitely feels like they needed to put a lot in this season to get
The
a
audience.
second season
Yeah.
and an audience.
Yeah.
Which, because I mean, I want to say they are renewed for a second
Yep.
season, right? Okay. So hopefully the
How
second
could they not be?
season, now that they've got the first one out of the way, it'll kind of like, okay, we have the audience, we have the episodes, we can do this now.
But I completely agree with you, but I don't like the way that they did it. I didn't walk away loving
Yeah.
this show. And I honestly, it felt like they were trying to cram so much intrigue behind the characters that they were like, so if you give us a chance, we'll give you more. We'll give you more. Just give us a chance. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't make me like any of them. You didn't make me care about any of them. And all of them suck. Like, that's what I'm walking away with. Everybody sucks. All of them.
That's literally
Except
the
Starlight.
entire mood of the comics. I mean, everybody sucks.
Well,
That's the
then I'm
point of the
glad
show.
that they got that across.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, maybe not necessarily what I
Their
want
main
mine to be.
their main thing behind it was what would happen if superheroes were real. There's no way
And
we would
manufactured.
have these fucking shiny Supermen or Superman just showing up, saving the day, everything's good, we fucking leave out. It's like, no, thousands of people are gonna die. There's gonna be news chaos about that constantly, like there is in today's world about any fucking thing that fucking happens. And then on top of that, they're going to have moments where they're going to use their powers for their own selfish gain and their own political reasons.
I was
And it's
actually
like,
gonna
that's going to happen.
I was gonna say that the part of the show that I found the most interesting, but I get why it wasn't the focus, but I wish it was, is all of the background stuff happening. So like anytime they were talking about the bill that they were trying to pass to get superheroes into the military.
Yep.
I remember the first couple episodes really well, but the when they're talking to the mayor of Baltimore about getting a super like
dedicated, yeah,
like that was really I found that stuff really fascinating because it's like, yeah, that's what would be happening is all this behind the scenes shady deal stuff, and that's really, or like the bar, is it, or like the speakeasy kind of place where all the supers go to use their powers where people can't see them. It's like, that's cool. I love that world building. That was fascinating. I agree with you. At some point, the characters themselves, they all just kind of suck, but I get why they do. And for me, the part of the show that I really had a hard time with was the gore.
I love it.
I know that's some people's thing, but
it felt it felt like it needed to have that Game of Thrones edge, which everything kind of does now.
Yeah.
Where they need to be able to make it this mature, or no one's going to care about it.
Which honestly, I could feel that when they were portraying it, and that's what I didn't like. It didn't feel like we're doing gore because we want, like, this is part of the art and this is part of the world building. It felt like we're doing gore because we think this is the only way we'll capture you as an audience.
This is why sometimes it's really important whenever people like react to these shows, not knowing the source material actually really hurts the shows a lot because the comics are gory as fuck.
I'm sure, the comics, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
The thing that bugged me the most when I got to the end, so there's kind of two things. In general, I was annoyed at the end because it felt like it was sequel bait without a satisfactory ending. And the comparison that I've made to people is like, Stranger Things, season 1 had a sequel bait ending where they teased the second season, but it wrapped up the story it started. It started a story, it finished the story, and then led you into season 2. This story felt like it started a story, and then halfway through it, they cut it off and went, give us season 2.
I mean, to an extent, I can also see how, like, where they ended that would be good, too, because it's like, yes, they started a story, and the story started with Huey's issue, but if Butcher would have never had his issue in the first place, it would have never happened to begin with. So it's like we got the full circle of Butcher's story at the end because now we found his wife. That was his whole reason. We also didn't
start Butcher's story until halfway through.
And we also didn't resolve what happened with his wife. We don't know, was she raped by Starlight?
Yeah, we know
Homelander.
Well, we know for a fact she had Homelander's kid. We don't know if she was raped for sure, obviously.
Right. And like why she hid, why they didn't tell Homelander, how Homelander's gonna respond to it. Are they going to be a weird family now with two dads? Like,
right. I get that. At the same time, I also can kind of feel that. I mean, and this is just my own personal. Everybody's gonna have their own personal opinion on this one. That's just how that's gonna work. Yeah. But I honestly didn't really. I wasn't bothered by the ending. I thought it was an okay way to end it due to the fact that it's like, holy fuck, they just literally turned Butcher's whole world upside down. Yeah. How is this going to continue on? So I can get that. I'm not saying it was the best ending. They definitely could have done a better ending. The ending didn't bother me personally.
I kind of wonder too if that has to do with the fact that there is a lot of source material behind it. Because I just looked it up and see Stranger Things season 1 had 8 episodes and this had 8 episodes in their season 1. And I would say the biggest difference is that The Boys has so much source material behind it that, like, yeah, you can go and look it up if you want. So, like, I guess if it didn't continue, there is stuff there.
Right.
So like I guess I'm in the middle, right? Because like I agree that it's kind of annoying if they hadn't renewed it for a second season, then we would just be left with this ending.
Right.
But I do think that it's a good ending knowing that there's a second season. If
the second season wraps it up and makes it okay, then fine. And then my other issue with it was just kind of we already kind of said this, but the pacing was weird. Because, like, halfway through, like, probably around episode 4 or 5, I had kind of just, like, forgot what they were doing or why. And, like, they kept getting, like, almost captured and then escaped, and then they have to move, and they go over here. And the whole time they're like, but we're going after Homelander. And then at the end, Karl Urban just kind of shows up at the lady's house and is like, I'm gonna kill you. And I'm like, what the... This felt like you were working up to this, and then at the end, like, everything falls apart, and Karl Urban's just like, I guess I'll go to her house. Like, why didn't you do that from day one, man? Like, the way he got the information to get to her house was a contact he had in the first episode. It's like, why didn't you just
like that was the
do
only
that?
way to get that leverage was, to like do that trial by error type deal. I mean, you got to look at it this way too, is like you're dealing with a Batman-ish type character who understands his limitations, but understands there's still something that needs to be done, and he has to work within those limitations. And understand we have someone like Homelander who can literally fly around the world within a blink of an eye, who can literally fucking punch a hole into the goddamn planet, and can literally snipe you down with a laser beam from fucking thousands of miles away. It's one of those situations where there's like a lot he had to try to play with in the background, and when all else failed, he was like, he wronged me. This is going to fucking happen. And came to his last resort, going to someone he knew he fucked over, knew a lot of the shit that he did got them to this position they were at, knew she wanted nothing to fucking do with him, to get that final information that he could possibly get if she had it, in order to try to put an end to fucking everything, and it's still backfired.
I guess I would have liked the story a lot more with the story that was presented, where it's like this ragtag crew of people that are trying to pull off a heist like thing against these superheroes, and they managed to stumble their way through it. That to me was a much more appealing story than this kind of meandery thing where just it kind of falls apart at one point and everyone just kind of wanders away, but everyone's also fine. So there weren't like a lot of consequences to the failure because everyone's basically okay at the end.
Right.
Except they're like down 3 of the 7, so it's like, well, okay, good job.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. And then like the main character, what's his name?
Talk about Huey?
Huey?
Huh? Huey, yeah. Like his like full circle moment where he's trying to resuscitate I'm sorry.
A-Train.
A-Train. It like I know what that was supposed to be, where he's like getting over his need for vengeance. But I'm like, no, A-Train actually should, like, in the world that you're setting up and in the stuff that you're doing, you should actually kill A-Train.
Yeah.
Like, your plan is to take violent action against the 7. That means killing A-Train. Like, I don't, has that plan different now? Because they're still horrible in killing people. And so I guess, what are you going to, like, start picketing now all of the sudden?
So
like,
I think one of the things that comics put across very well that the show probably didn't do for a lot of people who didn't read the comics, with me having the back source, is a lot easier for me to just take some of this stuff and just go with it, is like, there was a big struggle with Huey as far as understanding the vengeance aspect that he wanted and then actually seeing it play in person. So like the translucent death had a way bigger shock on him in the comics versus the show. Another
he seemed
thing
happy
is,
about that.
Yeah, he did.
Right. Another thing that also plays on it is that once he understood what his role was and what he was going to have to do moving forward, there was a big thought of that in his mind for Starlight. And so then understanding that Starlight is this different person, that not all heroes are these just fucking assholes, that there are some to live with and be able to, just move forward. He ended up getting that kind of feeling with most of them, like, am I literally the same thing as they are, just going around fucking killing them, that they're just fucking running around killing people? And what is this difference between Starlight and A-Train type deal? So I think the comics explained it a little bit better than the show did, and therefore it made a little bit more sense to me whenever I watched it.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
Because he had a lot more
those...
conflicting shit going on because of all the shit that was happening.
And they make it very clear after the translucent death that Huey is like, I liked it. Like he has a line where he's like, it felt right. So yeah,
he
that's
gains more confidence throughout the
Right.
show as he's like going around trying.
And
to
they
kill
might be going
Lando.
for a grittier version too, and that's completely
well,
fine.
which is
They just
fine,
need
but
to play
then
it that way.
well, yeah, and then I guess the need to save A-Train didn't. I mean, if they're following the comics, great, but it's the thing of like, if you're gonna write him a slightly different way, you have to be okay with the story not matching completely.
Yeah, the story's going to go somewhere else, and it needs to, and you need to not try to cram this new character into its old story because it's not going to fit.
Well, and the other thing too, I'm curious about this, Chris, and this is just a weird coincidence that happened. I'm reading a novel or a series of novels right now that's like a YA novel called The Reckoners that has a very similar plot where there's like superheroes and supervillains, and the superheroes are in charge of this city, and they're like trying to run the city, but they're all kind of people, so they screw up. And then the supervillains are like, look, the superheroes are screwing up the city, and there's poverty, and they're not fixing anything, so we're going to overthrow them. And then there's like a love story between a superhero and a supervillain, you know. So it's very similar.
Cute.
Like
Right.
they have like a mystery drug that makes superheroes. There's a lot of similar notes.
Mhm.
But what I liked about that is that you saw the superheroes trying to be superheroes and failing,
Mhm.
and then you saw the supervillains trying to help people and also screwing it up. So you have these two forces trying really hard to do something, but their personal selves get in the way. So like in the comic book, do you ever see the superheroes being superheroes?
I
Because
mean,
we just lost all of that.
So it's one of those things where they really tried to bring home is like, in a world where superheroes exist, as far as comics are concerned, we're only going to get the headline, Homelander saved the plane from going down. That's
right,
what we're
but
going to
do
get.
you ever,
What we're
do you
not
ever
going to
even
get
get
is that
that moment?
Homelander lasered 3 fucking terrorists on a plane in front of millions, or in front of hundreds of people, splattering their blood all over their face, terrorizing them, sending children to fucking psychiatrists and shit like that. That's the stuff that's not going to happen. The comic wants to shed light on that versus, hey, they actually did save somebody, because we did see that in the beginning. They saved those fucking kids from the fucking getting ran over, stopped the fucking robbers. Like, we did see them playing heroes. But the comic switches to that real quick of like, this is the reason why we're telling this story.
I guess I wish you got more of the duality, because I got that the superheroes were going to be bad people from like the trailer or the poster, or just because it's called The Boys and it had blood in it and was a superhero thing. I was like, okay, I get it. They're going to be bad. But I guess I wish there had been more nuance with the heroes. So that way, in that moment when Huey is trying to save A-Train, you can like think of a reason why he's trying to save A-Train. Because I can't.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes me a bad person.
Well, I think they try to do it very like subtly through, and this probably didn't work, but in the same way of when they're, so the scene that I keep thinking about is there's the scene where Queen Maeve, I think is her name, she's talking right before the race. I like her too. She's talking right before the race to a reporter about the bill, and people are like cheering about like, yeah, we want superheroes. And so it's like those, like, yeah, you're not seeing it directly, but it's because there's a lot more to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing like in the background people being like, yay, we like the superheroes, and you know, all of their movies, things like that. So it definitely, I don't know. I didn't find it as frustrating to not see that, because I got that it would be like us, like we're the ones watching, you know, Marvel movies, and we're just not seeing the other side of it.
I think something that they could have done that would have been really, really nice, personally, is if they would have paced it out better. I think a great way to end it would have been finding out about Compound V, personally, myself.
Ooh,
that would have been
because then it's like full circle. Now Huey's like at this spot of like, he was fucking hopped up. You know, they could play it multiple ways. Is he an addict? That could have played multiple ways in Huey's character, and they could have definitely stretched that out. I definitely think that would have been a better way to do it, because then we could have had more time to do what you're talking about, which is focusing on like the bill, focusing like on how this actual how Vought actually works with contracting these heroes to different states and stuff like that. Get a little bit more of the understanding of what the Seven actually is versus like basically the fucking Avengers is the guest that we have, or the Justice League. So I definitely think that they can taste it.
You get a little bit here and there, but they needed just like an extra scene an episode, I think, just to like, you know, you get the person coming in and giving Starlight like, well, we do all the background work and then you go and walk around, but you don't. Yeah, I agree. They just needed like an extra bit to be like, here is them going out.
Well, then that's where I also think that would have helped out with Cody a lot too, as far as what Cody was talking about, where if they would have stretched it out that way and we actually could have got to see the heroes do more hero shit versus just like what the 3 missions that we actually saw them go on. Even if they fucked it up, it was still it was still like we got to see it happen.
Well, and I think Mandy's totally right. Like Maeve to me is Queen. Is it Queen Maeve? Are we right about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Maeve, yeah.
Is to me the perfect example of what I was expecting for that character.
She's great.
Where like you can see where she started, where she wanted to try to help people, and then all the personal stuff got in the way, and she's a human, and Vought wrecks all these people. But you only ever really hear her say that, and then other than that, she's just kind of like there helping Homelander be a sociopath.
That was a great little scene, by the way.
Yes, the plane.
Like, oh no, the plane was good too. But I was talking about
where he shoots her.
Yeah. So just like those 2 missions to me though were so good. I wanted to see more of that. Where it's like just that them talking about all of this nonsense while like it takes like 2 seconds to kill someone. And then they have to make it look like, oh, we fought, or you know, just the argument with the play. Like those were so good. Like that to me is what I wanted more of.
That was like my favorite Homelander scene. Like whenever all those fucking people were trying to get up and leave, and he's like, "Sit the fuck down, or I'll lace every single fucking one of you." I was like, "You've got my attention." Holy shit. All right.
I guess to me that was never a surprise with Homelander. Like, as soon as the show started, they're just like, Homelander is a creepy pervert murder psychopath.
Well, no, but the point is that to everyone else, he doesn't appear that way.
Right.
But they played it off pretty good the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Because it was like, even Billy, because he asked what about Homelander, and even Billy the Butcher was all like, he's perfect. The fucking, his favorite word, the cunt doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't do anything. Like, he's literally the fucking perfect. And then it was like, after that, we started seeing, I think the first thing was him shooting down the plane.
Yeah.
And then it was just like after that it was like, God damn, this dude is like a fucking prick. Like, holy shit. So
but like to me, sorry, go ahead, Kelsey. No, you're good.
No, my comments actually are going to take it in a totally different direction that Chris may or may not be okay with on the show. So you go ahead first.
I was just going to say that like Maeve to me was a more interesting character because she had nuance, and you saw her wanting to be a good person and screwing it up, and you didn't really see that from anybody else, like other than
Starlight.
Is it Starlighter or is it
Starlight?
Just Starlight.
Okay, shoot, sorry, there's like another character and another thing that has a very
Lamplighter.
Is that not the Carl
original
Urban?
That's the one that she replaced.
Right, I just thought that was Carl Urban.
No,
like the whole time
replaced.
I was like, oh, that's gonna be the reveal.
Lamplighter burnt Billy the Butcher's boss's grandchildren. That whole thing they were talking about, like how roasted her grandchildren. That's who did that. And Lamplighter ended up retiring. He didn't even die. Retired. So Lamplighter's just not part of the Seven anymore.
Did they ever does he ever come up? Like, is he ever explained at all?
In the comics a little bit, yeah.
Okay,
and then he's part of that statue in front of their door too. He's holding that fucking lamp and shit. And whenever they brought Starlight out, they had that whole like picture behind them of the current Seven.
Yeah,
he was part of that too.
Yeah. Well, they reference him a bunch, and to the point where I'm like, well, he's definitely going to show up later on
at some point. Yeah,
I think he'll make an appearance in a later season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, that was all that I had to say. Is I was interested in the nuance, and it wasn't there as much as I would have liked.
Fair enough.
So, Chris, you'll have to decide if you're comfortable with this coming out. But I think one of the most challenging things for me with this whole show was how aggressively it went into the politicalization of female bodies in all forms. You know, we've got the very aggressive form of, well, you can dress with whatever you want in your private time, but here you're putting that on. And it didn't matter how uncomfortable she was with it. And we got it in more subtle ways with like Maeve being okay with being shot. And you could tell her as she was like, okay, I know exactly what you want to do. Go ahead and shoot me. And he shoots her and stuff like that. And then you start like, Homelander makes some comments that makes it clear that he doesn't really care what happens to her, and her, like, she's given a lot to him and he cast her aside, and you could see that weigh on her. And then later when he was like, oh, you're the one that I want, and was like trying to possess her, and she was trying to remove herself from that situation. And then even what we got in the reveal at the very end, where to the best of the audience's knowledge, and we don't know everything yet, but to the best of the audience's knowledge, she was raped and then she disappeared, had this guy's kid, and has never gone back. And like even in the conversation around her rape, we have this politicization of these female bodies and female empowerment. And you actively see Vaughn in particular using female empowerment as a tool to manipulate and control, as opposed to a way of letting go the reins and letting women take care of themselves and do what they want to do. And that is such a reality that it made me like violently angry while watching the show. I'm like, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this. I experience this too often every day. Oh my God. And like my husband was just like, breathe, calm down. It's a show. I'm like, it's not a fucking show though. And he's like, okay.
So I think, so first off, just to address something with the audience here. As far as if anybody's going to kind of get offensive to this conversation, the way I look at this is that, one, it's part of a show, so I'm not cutting any of this out.
Yeah.
First off, it's part of the show. Second off, it's the culture of the show. I'm not going to sit here and host a review show with people who are part of my team where we can't talk about the show in full. That's just, there's no point in that. So I'm not going to censor that. It's not going to happen. It's part of the show. We're going to talk about it. As far as my opinion and my thoughts on that in general, I think the reason for the fact that that is something that is real and does happen, I think is why they didn't shy away from fucking showing that whatsoever. I actually applauded the fact that they went directly into the whole, if you're going to be here, you're going to wear this, and giving Starlight that whole inner conflict of like, I want to be part of the Seven. I've already had to fucking blow deeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this where I really call it quits? Like, you know, and shit like that. So I actually really applauded the show for going that far. As far as like with the whole Butcher's wife being raped and shit like that. I mean, one, I've said this on multiple different avenues of the internet, whether it's been on my fucking stream or whatever. It's hard for me to watch rape scenes. Like that is very rough for me to ever fucking watch. I've seen multiple of them in movies. It's just really rough for me to watch. I'm not a big fan of those. I get that sometimes it plays into a bigger story, and I get that the jab they're going here is like she ran away. Once again, I tried to stay myself away from spoilers, so I'm going to put this the way that I possibly can, because I did not read whether or not she was actually raped or not, because I wanted to save myself for the show since it did get cleared for a second season, so I do not know, so there's no spoilers here. The way I look at it is that if she did get raped, the reason why she would stay away is because she knew how Butcher would react, and that she would end up getting Butcher killed. And
quite
then
possibly,
if it came out that he raped her and she was able to go anywhere with it, what's to stop Homelander from killing her and killing the kid? The best scenario at that point is to just disappear and be done with it. Because there's no way. I mean, they made it pretty fucking obvious that the fucking chick that was running Vought knew she got fucking raped by Homelander, or had sex with Homelander, and had a kid. She obviously made her disappear. That was very obvious. So it's like, what can happen with that information? Vought's not going to let that shit happen, so therefore she's just next on that hit list. And I'm going to take a wild guess, her used to being part of Vought understood more of what these heroes were actually capable of and were actually doing, which is why she left in the first place. And had that horrified look on her face when she was sitting at the park. Because as Billy said, she sat there for 3 hours without moving a muscle.
Clearly
she
thinking
fucking
through.
knew. Yeah, she fucking knew. Her steps in leaving were well fucking thought out. And that's the way I see
think,
it.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And I agree with you that there were moments that they hit on and I went, they're clearly doing this on purpose. Like this is a
Right.
subtext of the show, but it's also a very direct text repeatedly in the show.
Right.
Yeah,
and
Absolutely.
even-
of how
even-
they're held to that standard. 100%.
And even Queen Maeve was like, you over the course of this, you give up more and more and more pieces of
Mhm.
yourself, and it'll shock you when nothing is left. It will really surprise you. So I need you to be goody two shoes because I can't anymore. Like she clearly lost it through
Right.
all of her personal relationships.
And
And I
now-
found that challenging, but I also think my sister brought up that it may have been so overt to try to make sure that the people that aren't used to seeing that narrative would see that narrative
right.
and see that undertone.
And I think it was the perfect way to put it in a spot where it's like you're gonna have, because think about it this way, right? Even in today's world, even in the real world, and once again, if people get upset because you feel like I'm touching on something or you're feeling like I'm fucking getting political stance, I'm not. I'm just fucking. I'm a comic book fan. It's how it is. There's not that many guys that are just throwing their fucking comics in the air whenever they get like a female superhero, you know? So whenever you have such a huge fan base going to like these male superheroes, and then on top of that, the women are fucking screaming because they're all fucking drop dead gorgeous and fucking just amazing looking, da 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 da. So it's like the women are already living in that shadow, so they have to do more to get out of that. And so to be able to see that, I think it played it perfectly in the scene where it's like Homelander's obviously in the shadow. We had Deep where everybody was like, "Oh my god, he's so fucking hot," da 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 da. And then you also have the people like Noir where they clearly understand like, I'm not here for any of that shit. I'm just here to fucking do my job type deal. Like I got these gifts, I'm just here to do my job. And then you have people like Maeve who they've been there for so fucking long and have lived in the shadow and then made all these, because I think she's going to play so much more of a mother role to Starlight because she's made these mistakes of hooking up with the superhero on the team, living in his shadow, trying to do this whole fucking couple thing, that completely burning her. Now she has to live with working with him every day and live with the fact that he can fucking do whatever the fuck he wants to. She's not allowed to do that. Like, I think that's going to be a huge hitter coming into the later seasons if they get multiple seasons on how her relationship is going to interact with Starlight.
Was any of this in the comics? Was this a subtext in the comics?
Once again, I tried to steer myself away from spoilers, so I can't 100% say
not totally
for certain,
sure. Okay.
But I kind of got that vibe.
If anybody knows, throw the answer in the comics or in the comments below. 'Cause I'm just curious because I want to know if this was a directing choice or if this was the writer's choice.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I won't block
Well,
it.
and I agree. Like, I do think it's not a small theme that is brought up by the show, so it's worth like discussing the stance that they took on it. Because I will say, like, Starlight. I want to make sure I'm getting it's Starlight, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Mandy, write him a fucking note and stick
I
him
know.
on
I'm sorry.
Starlight.
This is why I'm here, is just give him
I
names.
keep slapping things.
Just-
I did find like her story more interesting because it had that nuance where you
Mhm.
could see her as someone that wanted to be doing well and then was just immediately thrown in like this miserable deep end.
Right.
Yeah.
well, and just completely full of corporate manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I see, like, where I said, like, Black Noir, in my opinion, is the other side of that because he's a male. Is he probably came in a lot like Starlight, bright-eyed, bushy, wanting to be this fucking hero. He's kind of seen how all this shit is, so that's why he just keeps himself just like, fuck it. I'm just here to do what I'm going to fucking do. I'm not here for the fame, da-da-da-da. I have these powers. I want the fucking paycheck. This is where I'm at. But Starlight, being a female and having to, you know, I mean, he looks badass completely covered up. They want more attention for her, so here's your fucking two-piece bathing suit. Fucking put that on and go out and fight crime.
I also thought it was interesting the way the rest of the show they characterized the Deep.
Yep.
Like being a person who was abusive to her. I thought it was interesting to show that that came from a place of weakness and that he was like the worst member of the team. He felt like, you know what I mean? It was like
he was the 1960s
he was like pitiful.
Aquaman.
And
Great.
that's why he like feels this need to like try to like demonstrate power and how that comes from such like a small and cowardly and petty place. I thought that was an interesting thing that they did with his character. I almost wish there had been more of it because I found his story a lot more interesting than A-Train's story. Like, I should say that story around him and Starlight and the way that story broke. I found the way that played in the show more interesting, because I do think it has a lot of levels that are disturbing, where like he didn't really get in trouble for like abuse towards her. He got in trouble for getting caught in the wrong way abusing her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a problem until she like called him out on public television, and Vought couldn't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
Because they would have been happy to ignore it.
Right. And I actually really like that a lot, that they did that way, honestly. I like that a lot. Because then Starlight, it was like for once Starlight finally got her one step to actually get on solid ground, where it was like, wow, it would really fucking suck for you to fire somebody after they just came out and proved that they were sexually harassed by a member on your team. That'd look really bad for you, wouldn't it? So
yeah, that was wise.
That was
and
awesome.
She seemed to feel more confident in that moment than most of the other moments of her superhero persona.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the Deep committing suicide at the very end? I'm trying to remember. I remember.
No, he was just shaving his fucking head.
He was shaving his head and calling himself stupid in a way that seemed like it could be a preamble to that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it really seemed like he was going down a dark suicidal path at the end.
He definitely thought that his spot was temporary, for sure, as far as like where he was being relocated at.
Yeah.
Once it seemed it was going to be a little bit more fucking close to permanent, he just started pulling a Britney Spears. So I didn't get two shits. Honestly, like, I mean, I get where you're getting at, and I could see like the value in that story. I could care two fucks about the Deep. Like, from the get go, I was like, you can get this fucking guy out of here. Fuck this dude. Like, I'm done with him already. He's so fucking annoying to me.
And that was, I think, intentional. Like, he was a despicable character. Like, and I don't think that was an accident.
Well, I just felt like they were really trying hard to tug at the strings with like when the chick came over and was like fucking fingering his gills and shit, and he was
which he clearly didn't want.
Clearly didn't want, and like obviously it's like, oh, fucking payback for what you fucking were doing, da 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 type deal. But it was like, go ahead.
I kind of wish that his story and A-Train were somehow like either flipped or together, because like I found the Deep more interesting than A-Train. So like I get where you're coming from, Cody. So like there was more interest in the Deep and I had more like hatred for him.
Yeah. When I say interest, I don't mean I liked him or he was a relatable character.
Cody's got a fucking Deep poster. He's got a Deep fucking t-shirt.
No.
I mean that what they did with that character was a fascinating character study.
Yes, and I wish they had something
in a despicable human being.
I wish they had something similar for A-Train, but because I don't know, I found it harder to connect with A-Train.
His story felt more stereotypical.
Yeah.
It also felt way more forced.
Yeah. It just seemed like he understood where he was at, in my opinion, and knew that he was in a spot that he just physically couldn't get out of. And so he just very fucking just stuck on that. Like, I'm addicted to this. I'm not going to be able to not fucking, I can't let fucking Homelander them know. I got to continue to just keep being this person. And then on top of that, so that's where the one interesting thing with A-Train to me, which made him somewhat of an interesting character to me, was that, in my opinion, he is one of the heroes out of the entire group that is probably the closest to being replaceable. Because that's all he has is his speed. So it just takes one. It just takes one to barely beat him, and he's gone.
Yep.
Homelander is like, there could be someone stronger than Homelander, but can he fly? Can he shoot lasers out of his eyes? Like, is he as fast as Homelander? Like, there's multiple avenues with Homelander. Translucent also had a couple different variables. He was able to go invisible, and his fucking skin was impenetrable. Like, there was multiple different things with him. The Deep is kind of like, until we get another fucking fish boy, you're basically the fish boy, sure. But with A-Train, like, that was his one gimmick. And he was already from the bat having to defend that constantly. So that to me is what kind of made him interesting to me. He was nowhere near the top of my list, obviously. But that was the only thing that kind of really kept him interesting to me, was because it was like, I could understand the struggle of like, without this, I will lose everything. But with I'm also losing everything.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. It just like they had the storyline with him getting in the race with whatever the guy's name was, the other superhero,
Flash Quake or Quake Flash, some shit.
Quick and fast man.
Quick fast dude. They had that for like one episode, and then it was like, okay, that was a big conflict, and I just like, I want it like. he just needed more. I get that obviously we got a lot of information about the Deep because of Starlight's story, but I feel like A-Train didn't get the same attention that the Deep did because of all the other stuff going on with Huey, and I wanted more about
If he's
A-Train.
going to be our big villain, it would be nice to have a villain that I actually dislike. Like, at this point, I think he's a junkie, and I don't, like, beyond that, I don't have a lot of feelings for him.
He's a junkie, and it's like, I guess I feel a little bit bad that he's replaceable, I guess. And I also hate him because he killed Huey's girlfriend at the beginning.
And his girlfriend.
Yeah. So it's like,
okay, so that kind of actually brings up a question that I have, Kelsey. Is some of the reason why you found like the themes of like sexual abuse and harassment and rape distasteful in this show was because of how irreverent a lot of the show was? Here's me thinking about the part where a girl like smashes a guy's face while writing his face. Is this the show to like talk about very real and poignant issues? Do you know what I mean?
No, I see what you're asking. And honestly, I don't think they treated any of what I've brought up as challenging for me. I don't think it was because it was irreverent, because they didn't treat those things irreverently. They showed very clearly. They showed very clearly how much Starlight was affected by being forced into a sexually subservient relationship against her will, and it showed how much Maeve had been destroyed by her relationships in the moment when she realized what was going on. I was like, don't let them fucking see you like that. Like, it was not treated irreverently. It was meant to shock and appall, and it did a great job of doing that. And it's shocking and appalling subject matter, so I'm okay with shock and appall. And they did actively show character arc and change and anger, and I don't totally know how to deal with some of this as a result of those things. And so I don't think they trivialized any of it, and I think that's valuable. And I agree that it needed. There's no way the story could be told without that element. Like, you would have to leave this planet entirely. You'd have to leave the politics of this planet entirely in order to tell this story without that. I guess it was just effective to me, and I guess that's a me thing. It was effective to me because it is very real, and it is something that I see me and other women encounter on a daily basis, that I go, I did not expect to see this as accurately and as infuriatingly portrayed. Like, this is something I actively have to try to stay away from so I do not get angry on a daily basis. So to see it in my entertainment so clearly portrayed when I am trying to engage with material was challenging. So I think maybe the problem is they did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they did a good job with that. And then to kind of touch on something before we get too far away from it with the whole A-Train thing. First off, the dude's name was Shockwave. But the whole A-Train thing, I do want to point out that I don't think because I know that they gave him somewhat of like the whole fucking sad thing with Popclaw or whatever, because he had to fucking kill her or whatever nonsense was. But I don't.
He chose to kill her.
Right, but that's what I want to say.
Yeah,
is like
that decision was weird.
Going forward, just with kind of the way I might be picking up this shit that you guys are laying down wrong. But just for anybody else that's watching, possibly, is like, I don't think every character is meant to be like likable. I definitely think there are some characters.
I totally agree with you. I have no problem with that, and it's not about. As Cody kind of said this earlier, it's not about them being likable. I needed, specifically from A-Train, I was basically okay with everybody else. But because he was the main villain for Huey, I know I just needed more motivation to hate him.
Yeah, that's a really good. That I think I was thinking about the right way to put what I was saying about the Deep when I said he was more interesting. I think that it is
the Deep had a lot of motivation for me to hate him.
Well,
a lot.
I think it is entirely possible to take the most despicable person in the world and make someone understand them. And when I say understand, I don't mean forgive or agree with or like. I just mean understand how did this person get from point A to point B?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Why is this person a monster now?
Mhm.
With the Deep, I felt like you got that. And as a like the flip side of it was then like you saw Starlight's character develop from that, and actually something I kind of liked, and I don't know if I necessarily fully agree with like the hardline point they were taking, but I agree with some part of this, which is like anger is not always the wrong thing to feel, nor is it always an inappropriate response. And I think a lot of times we're encouraged to be like passive and agreeable as people, which generally is a good thing.
Mhm.
But there are times when anger is the right response. And I
Right.
think that like Butcher said that when he went to that group therapy session,
Yeah.
like, where's the anger? Like, this deserves anger.
That was like one of my favorite
Yeah.
Butcher moments too.
I
And-
loved that.
That was
and
so
I
good.
thought that Starlight encompassed that, where like eventually you see her kind of like flip and be like, okay, like I'm done. Like it's not a matter of like forgiveness or getting past it. Like I'm mad and I'm going to do something about what happened to me. And I thought that was like, as a character arc in a story, that felt better contained and better told than the story with A-Train and with Huey.
Mhm.
Because A-Train's character I did not understand as much. Huey's character I kind of did. Like there were some like hints that they did with him that I wish they had like sold on a little bit more, and maybe they will in the next season. And I think Chris, you even talked about this in the comic books. You see more of like the conflict of like,
There's a
should
lot
I
more
go
struggle
around-
and conflict.
yeah,
for
should
sure.
I go around killing these people that I've decided are villainous, you know, and does that make me a villain? But like that decision to take action I thought was really powerful with Starlight, and I liked that story. And I just wish that A-Train there had been more of that, or that the story had been a little bit less typical of like drug abuse and dependence for
Yeah.
performance, you know?
But I also wonder if there was something else going on in the telling of A-Train's story, just because they did multiple things to try to make us feel him as a character, with giving him this girlfriend, giving him this image he has to hold up of like, I'm single and ready to like do this with anybody anytime kind of thing, and trying to manage that balance in his home life. They gave that to us as an audience, but it wasn't
I
a
didn't
compelling
sell.
story. Yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
sell. I was
Yeah.
more compelled by Popclaw's story and her whole experience. That was way more compelling to me
Yeah,
than
I agree.
A-Train's
I
was.
think the biggest issue with that, though, in my opinion, is the fact that I don't really feel we got, and this could be going back to what Cody was talking about like there were not a lot of like high tier actors. I didn't really feel like we got that much emotion from A-Train.
Yeah,
on
it's very
any-
possible
Yeah.
he wasn't the right guy to act that part, and so it didn't land with any of us.
Yeah, it might be that gosh, Fishboy, the Deep was way better at acting like a sniveling, pathetic
Yeah.
human.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like,
pity
he
me type
actually-
deal. Yeah.
Sold that pretty well.
Bro, the fucking dolphin scene though, that was so great. That was so great. When that dolphin
Yeah.
was splat because that 18-wheeler, I was like, dude, this is amazing. Because I hated the Deep, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm so glad this is happening to you. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
with
they
this.
did kind of like put him through a special personal hell
They really
That's good.
did.
where they're like go to Columbus, Ohio, and then he like talks to the lobster and they just cut its head off and he's just like, all
Well, you
right.
feel how deeply misunderstood and unappreciated he is, and
Like I
how
said,
much he wants to do
1960s
something good.
Aquaman.
God,
Yeah.
That's
you
what
could
they're
feel it.
definitely making fun of right there. 1960s Aquaman. You're here
Yeah,
to talk
I
to
knew that the whole
fish.
time I was watching it.
You're here to talk to fish, and that is it.
But yeah, and I agree that some of this does come down to the acting, that I just think that a lot of the actors could have done better, like selling some of that nuance of the character.
Right.
Because like at the end of it, like you're kind of left believing that A-Train really loved Popclaw. He's like devastated by this, but that really never landed for me really well.
Because I don't think he fucking did it well emotion-wise. Like, he fucking got it with
Yeah.
all the needles, and he looked sad. The only time I saw some emotion was when the final conversation with him and Huey.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
say
That was the only
where
time.
he
Totally
goes,
agree.
If they would have
I know,
showed
I
that
killed her.
every single time, I think it would have hit a lot more
Well,
close to home.
And I think it would have made a difference too if he had been hopped up on the drug the whole time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because there's something about like if that was why he was emotionless, up until the very end. Like if there was,
oh yeah,
yeah, like then because then you've got an excuse for like some of the choices he's making.
yeah.
Instead of him just injecting himself like right before the race and a couple other times, like make him addicted to this thing. I think that would have. I think just even that would have made it more like, oh,
Compelling. Yeah.
yeah, because it's like, oh yeah, he's made the choice and to be on this drug and he knows it's a bad thing, but people like we are aware that addicts can't help themselves,
Right.
and so they end up in these cycles. And so yes, he's a bad person making these decisions, but it's also because he's on like that little bit would have, I think, just helped his whole character.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, a little bit more emotional acting on him and Huey, in my opinion.
Yeah. Huey's
But
also very flat.
I think one of the biggest issues that we have with this, and comes back to our pacing issue, I think if we just had a reference of time at all,
Yeah.
in the show,
Oh,
it would have helped out a
yeah.
lot more. Because for all we know, this shit happened in like over the weekend. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it felt like it happened
Well,
really fast.
It's literally, I think Huey's girlfriend gets killed, and then the next thing we know, they're at the funeral, and they just keep saying like a few days ago. And then I think at one point he says, I saw you on the bench yesterday or 2 days, and you're just like, wait a minute.
Like,
That was 3 episodes ago. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Wait, but your girlfriend just died. I know that was episode 1, but time is passing. But how much time is passing?
Well, and that would
Yeah.
happen anytime something like you know, it would like go down and everything would get banned. They're like, we're burned. They're gonna be here in 2 hours, and then it's like, geez, I feel like you said that 3 episodes ago, and you're just in a different warehouse.
Yeah.
There's just like this infinite series of warehouses that you're all like going and having club meetings at.
I did actually really like The Boys. We haven't actually talked about The Boys very
We
much.
haven't
beyond
really
Butcher,
talked about the boys,
but The Boys are all of the guys that are trying to kill the superheroes, and all of them are very fun. They have their
great.
own quirks. Their interpersonal relationships are a fucking shit show, and I really enjoy the actual Boys.
I mean, bro, oh my god, the fucking I heard a lot of people didn't like this, but the fucking Spice Girls shit, that was the shit. to
So
me.
funny.
I fucking loved that entire
I
fucking
was
thing.
surprised how many people I saw say that they didn't like it. I was
Yeah.
like,
oh.
that's
Well, that was
hilarious.
sad.
good. And then
No,
like
it was like really tragic at the end when you find out why he knows all about the Spice Girls.
still, it was like
And-
so fucking
yeah.
funny. Like the,
Well,
I love the
built
whole
his
like
character.
I love how they're all like
That was
he gives the
great,
worst pep
though.
talks. It's like he really does, and then like they fucking gas the chick, and he's like, she's not one of the Spice Girls. I was just like, this is so fucking great.
Well, and it was that was like well set up and paid off. That like he references the Spice Girls all the time. At one point, yeah, he gives that big motivational speech about the Spice Girls, and then you find out there's like a very emotional reason why he cares about the Spice Girls, and it makes sense, and it's actually really funny and like poignant. You know, it's like, oh, that's like kind of a tender moment for him. Why, like when he talks about his team, he's going to reference them as the Spice Girls. Like that actually made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I really liked that. I again thought, well, like anything to do with his character was really well done.
Yeah.
I
And
liked Mother's Milk a
Exceptionally
lot.
well acted.
Yes.
I enjoyed Mother's Milk a lot. One of my friends told me that like the most irritating thing he ever has in movies is when like every black person is just a stereotype. And I liked that Mother's Milk wasn't, and he was like, he like loved his kids, and I like the thing where he's like embarrassingly like, I love you,
His wife, yeah.
and
Shit
has
was
to
so
hang
good.
up before everyone starts making fun of him. I thought that was really cute.
I liked the dynamic between, because like I get that they were all a team, but to me it definitely felt like, yeah, but Billy Butcher was the leader, but like Mother's Milk had a very significant impact on how things moved forward, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
seeing that spot where like they all get made at the end, and he immediately starts blaming Huey because of fucking Starlight, and then Mother's Milk takes up for him. It's like, she never fucking knew me. She never fucking saw me. How would I be made? And then
Yeah.
like Huey was like, thanks for that. Like I really enjoyed the fact that like we have that other like strong standing pillar in the team. Like that was I really enjoyed that character a lot. Mother's Milk.
Mother Smoke was cool because like the French guy was like a joke character, you
Sure.
know,
Oh,
which
definitely.
is fine.
For sure.
Like you need that. Although they kind of gave him a little bit of a like
with the chick.
yeah, who was like scary superhero kind of.
Yep.
I really thought they had killed her too. I was like surprised when she came back after getting killed by Black Noir.
Yep.
That freaking name too, like Black Noir.
It's so good.
It
Dude.
just means black.
Yes, I know. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. I love
yeah,
it. I love it.
The fact that he said nothing and wore a whoever that actor is has a lot of confidence
Yeah.
to be like.
I'm
we're
really
gonna-
hoping it's like Ryan Reynolds or something like that. Like it's somebody
I
that we
would
know.
lose my
Carl
fucking
Urban had that
mind.
role. There was a movie where Carl Urban he played Judge Dredd and he never took off his helmet.
Yeah,
All you
but
got
we
of Carl
still
Urban was his
knew it
chin.
was him, no.
Yeah, but it was still kind of cool that he's just
I
like.
forgot
okay.
all about Judge Dredd. Jesus
Judge Dredd was
Christ.
a great
That was a
movie.
great movie.
Liked
Yeah. But I love Billy the Butcher. His everything about him was so great. Like whenever he was fighting Translucent, and then he just started spitting on him, he's like, "Oh, there you are," and just started fucking fighting. I was like, "Yeah, let's go." Oh man, and his use of the C word was fucking fantastic. Like it was like every fifth word out of his mouth. It was so good. He was cracking me the pot. Like the accent, everything. It was so fucking great. Like he easily my favorite character. Like easily. Like he was so fucking good. Oh,
Yeah,
my
so
God.
I guess like I came down hard on the show at the beginning, and I am annoyed at the end because of the sequel bait and because I don't feel like they wrapped things up well.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I watched the whole thing in like 2 days because I like wanted to know what happened next. So it did good enough to get me hooked, and
Yep.
especially like the first episode was really good,
Oh my gosh,
Like
the
the
first
sequence
episode was great.
where they capture the Invisible Man and then have to fight him, where they like crash a car into
Yep.
him, and then he goes up there with the baseball bat and swings and just like hits the refrigerator, and he's like, "Oh no!"
Yep.
Like,
Yep, he was there.
When
Yeah,
he,
that was
like,
so fucking good.
spits blood on him to just see,
Yeah, to see
kind
him.
of where he
that
is.
was fun. That was
Yeah.
that was a
That was good
But
too.
see,
And then like
that-
the fact that like they actually had him cornered. And then like Huey went to go pull the fucking wire and it wouldn't come out anymore. Like even that was fucking hilarious to me because it was
Yeah.
like then it was like Billy had to fucking kick him real quick to get him to fucking back up into the wire. It was like they thought they had a foolproof plan at the end, like finally had a savior, and I was like, oh shit. It's like fucking had a fast act on it. That was great.
I
I
did
wish there
actually
had been
really
more of
appreciate
that.
those moments where there were. I agree. There were not enough of the moments where they comedically added, like, "Oh, this is the real world. It's not perfect." Like, "Oh, we have to kick the bad guy into
Do
the
the wire,
electricity."
yeah.
line.
Yep.
I wish there were more of those. I agree with you because they were hilarious.
Or
Well-
whenever they shot the gun at him and just bounced around, he was all like, "You fucking idiots! My skin is impenetrable, you fucking dumbasses!" Like that shit was so fucking good.
That
Oh
kind
my
of like
God.
cat and mouse with superheroes where you're like kind of following the villains trying to figure out how to kill Superman. I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoy, and I think it was like some of the best funnest sequences in the show,
Mhm.
and they did it in like episode 1 and then it just ended.
yeah,
And I wanted to see the mousetrap for A-Train. I wanted to see the mousetrap for
Oh man,
Um,
but dude,
Agreed.
you know, like
they
all of these
broke
characters.
A-Train's fucking leg, I was so happy.
I don't know
She
why they
came
didn't
out of
just kill
nowhere.
him at that.
That was so
You know
great.
what I
Like whenever he was just like, "You're so fucking dumb. You don't ever come without backup." Then she just came out of nowhere, broke his fucking leg, and he was like, "Yeah, you're right. Would have been dumb to come without backup. Good thing I did."
See, but this is where like the show started to confuse me because I'm like, okay, now you kill him.
Yep.
You can't like kind of kill somebody and then be like, they probably won't come back for me. You
Yeah.
know, it's like if you're
Which is
Going-
exactly what they did with Translucent. That what they were like, we can't. We have to
we can't
kill
just
him.
let him go. He's seen our faces. He knows what we're doing.
And-
We can't let him go now.
And
Yeah.
this is also something else I want to touch on because we touched on like the really hard, feminine aspect of the show as far as all that shit. Something else I want to touch on as well because we touched on that, and like I said, not going to censor any of this because we're talking about the fucking show. But him having to deal with being racially profiled because he wasn't technically looking like a superhero anymore, I thought was really fucking well done as well.
Yeah.
Like him just
yeah.
walking in the
that was
store.
an interesting sequence.
Yeah, right. That was a very interesting scene. I was like, wow. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're A-Train. My bad. I'm sorry. Because even the cop was like, at first it's all like, bullshit. Yeah, and I'm Homelander. And then everybody else like, oh my God, look, it's A-Train. It's A-Train. And he's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And for him to be like, oh, what? So because I'm a superhero, I'm just not black now? Is that? And I was like,
Yeah.
fucking yes. Like, let's fucking do more of this. Like, yes.
Yeah.
I was really happy with the show with that.
I wish
Like
there
I
had
said,
been
so
more
Starlight.
of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. It's like him, like, oh, cool, because now you know that I'm fucking not, I'm a superhero. All of a sudden, I'm not under suspicion anymore. My skin has just changed colors. So,
Well, and that was like that, like parts of his life, like slipping and him like seeing the cracks of his own life is exactly what did happen with the Deep, and I don't think happened with A-Train enough.
right. Because another thing that they hinted on, I wish they would have explored a little bit more, which I would have think would have done great for A-Train as far as his backstory, is like when they went to go sit down and do all the whole like, so tell us, how you found out about your powers, how you became a superhero. And he was talking about the fact that he outran a drive-by. And they're like, let's stay away from the gun violence. Let's talk about something else. And it was like, showing him deal with that a little bit more, I think would have been better, where it's like basically like, he does the commercial they want, and then like we get like a fucking thing with him where it's like, he's kind of dealing with the fact that it's like, I am a superhero, but like my path to be here means so much to me, but I'm not allowed to share that with anybody. Type deal. Like I think that would have been a lot better to play on for him, and it probably would have had a bigger impact on everybody as well.
They had a great opportunity between him being racially profiled, his girlfriend being dead. Like she was more than a girlfriend. She technically was, but at the same time, they'd been together for so many years.
It wasn't like a flippant relationship.
No, this was a committed, intentional relationship between the two of them. And they also, from what I could tell, it seemed like the superheroes essentially more or less lived up in that tower. And so they really had an opportunity to play on his isolation, his newfound isolation without anybody outside of this tower. And within the tower, you are not safe. It is clear you are not safe from the other supers. You are not safe from the company and the influence that they have over you. You are not in a safe place. And they really could have shown the cracks in his character a lot better around those issues, because I think those were starting to come to him as he fell out of being a super and into being a mortal man. He was experiencing that fall, and they just did not show it well enough. But I think there was a lot of opportunity they had with all of the supers actually to play on that isolation that they didn't take.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's true.
I agree with that.
Well, and there's also just like not that many, because the Invisible Man gets killed so quickly, and then Homelander's kind of like the jailer of the Nightmare Tower, right? Starlight, like, you get her side of it, like what's going on with her, because she's kind of like the other main character.
The main character, yeah.
But then, I mean, there's just not that many other. You're just like running out of super. Then you got Black Noir. He's a robot, basically,
Yeah.
So you really only get Mab, the Deep, and A-Train are really your 3 point of view heroes that are kind of in this gray area between being like fully a demigod dictator who's like threatening the world with his laser eyes, and Starlight, who's like a good person.
I do like the spoiled little brat.
Go ahead.
Like persona that we're getting with Homelander.
Oh,
I really
God.
enjoy that they're going that route, because like it just goes to show like how it could be with a superhero like Superman, for instance, who literally no one could fucking do anything against, and he just can never be told no type deal.
If he hadn't been raised by Ma Kent,
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like without those strong parenting models to be like, hey, look, fucking, our good old Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility type issue, Like, and so here we are with this fucking just little fucking crybaby. I love it.
Oh, that Oedipal relationship too.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I was just about to ask, like,
So
what exactly is their relationship? Can we define it?
I think the best way to look at it is that she is looked at as a mom and his mate at the same time. I think that's the best way to look at it.
It's very Oedipal. It's like, I really want to. I'm not going to say I really want to have sex with my mom, but that's.
I'm glad I have that recorded. Let's go.
Yeah, right? No, but that's what we're going with there is that, like, since he did not have that growing up, like, I don't know how true this is in psychology, but it's like the popular thing of like
100% true.
I am dubious of that. I think that it is a. We'll talk about this later. It doesn't matter.
We can touch on it now. Go ahead.
The trope in psychology, right, is that like developing men at some point
Oh,
stop.
not that part.
Oh, okay. I was
Go
gonna say, like, what needs to happen for developing men is that they stop being connected to their mothers and eventually then start being connected to potential mates. You know, there is like that switch. But if that doesn't happen, eventually it's just like, well, mom is the potential mate. Yeah, right. Because that, like, any form of intimacy eventually gets like conflated with sexuality. So I think that's kind of what her character was.
And see, I'm also interested to figure out who the fuck that.
Huge degree.
I want to know who the fuck the father of her kid is, because at first I was thinking maybe it was just Homelander, but at the way that they make it play, it seems like it's like, because once again it goes on to the bratty kid, like this is the little brother.
Yeah, it feels a lot more sibling and a lot
right,
less dad.
exactly. Like,
yeah.
Man, imagine
really
if it does act like that, and it also is his kid. That would be fucking nuts, dude. Also, like, this show is going to literally blow my fucking mind. I'm gonna be like, what the fuck is happening?
Did the baby just get blown up too?
Yes,
like,
the baby got blown up.
Yeah.
Because he saved Carl Urban, but it's just like, not the baby, I guess.
Which is what makes me think it's not his kid, because
no, I don't think it
he
is.
Immediately, when he found out he had a kid, he pretty much immediately went to that child.
Yeah. And I think didn't kill Carl Urban because I think in his head, like, I don't know if this is true, but in my mind, the reason Urban is not dead is because
the pain of dealing with that.
Well, in Homelander's mind, the only way he's going to have a chance to have a Norman Rockwell family is by keeping Carl Urban alive as like a token of, look, I didn't kill your husband. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Now let me see my son.
That would be a very interesting way to do that. I mean, at the same time, it's kind of like he doesn't need that, though, because it's like, I could just kill you and take my son.
Well, but then he doesn't have that.
Norman Rockwell, perfect.
Yeah, because he's been pretending to have that for so long.
Yeah.
And he's really attached to that image. Like when someone moved a pillow in his fake house, he freaked out.
Yeah.
Because that fantasy. Yeah. When someone moved a blanket, he freaked out. Yeah, because it's this whole thing is now his perception of what family is that he doesn't get to have, you know?
No, the blanket was because it was his actual blanket from his actual childhood. It was the only given in his cell.
Yeah.
That's why it was an actual thing of his that had emotion. What the fuck? This should never be part of this.
Yeah.
So that's what he was upset about. To touch on when I said 100% true, I wasn't talking about what you were talking about. I apologize. I tried to rewind. Was wrong. No, there's this really weird thing that happens when families are broken apart, and for whatever reason, when like people of that family reunite, sexual relationships are extremely common, and so you'll find somebody who was adopted that will come back, and they, their parents aren't there anymore, but they find their grandparent, and so they start up a sexual relationship with their grandparent, or they'll find their uncle and start a sexual relationship with their uncle, and I'm absolutely armchair psychology right now. This is total bullshit, but I think it's that desire for that childish innocence and that intimacy as adults, as fully sexualized adults, that intimacy that we have as children with our parents, where you can get in tickle fights and you can do all that kind of good stuff, that we don't have that level of innocent intimacy anymore. Like when we start doing that, we have sexual reactions, and so there's a time and a place for that kind of behavior, and there's a longing within these people for I wanted that innocence, and I wanted those happy moments, and it turns sexual. And so you can Google this, there's a ton of these, and it's something that actually, like, psychologists have to warn people when they're like, I want to find my family. They're like, okay, bang your family. Please don't bang your family, because it doesn't lead to good things.
From Dead Funny, like, let's not fuck that. Let's go ahead and stick away from that. All right, I get it. Some people might live in Alabama. We don't actually have to act like we live in Alabama. Hashtag another stab at Joey. Fuck you, bro. Anyways, love you, man. Love you.
I was gonna say, are we just deciding not to have listeners in Alabama, or one listener in particular?
Let me tell you something, all right? On our other fucking channel, anytime Tony gets a fucking stab at Alabama just to fucking piss Joey off, but we go for it every time. Sad part is I spent a very, very big portion of my life also in Alabama, so I wasn't born there.
Okay, wait. hang on. Two real quick things. Actually, three. One, did any of Mandy brought this up, and I agree. Did any of you think he was getting superpowers?
What?
Did any of you think that Huey was gonna have superpowers?
No.
Okay.
Okay, the reason I thought that from the first episode, I think this was just like a poorly edited, or it just wasn't super clear. There was that moment in the first episode where the guy from Vaughn comes and asks him to sign the NDA to get the $45,000,
Mhm.
and Huey attacks him across the table, but then it flashes backwards and he's like, "Hey, you okay?" And that happens like 2 or 3 times in the first episode. So I thought maybe he had like psychic powers, like a little bit, to be like, yeah. So he was like,
what would happen? Oh, I don't want that.
which is why he ended up being so mild mannered, is because he was like, I can see this, but I'm just gonna not do this. I don't want to have the superhero thing. So yeah, random tangent, but
yeah, on that, I could see how that could be taken both ways, because I
Yeah.
was definitely on the other side of that, and I think the way that the dad put it across, because I was trying to think on why I was so big on the fact that I knew he didn't have superpowers, and I could even see the main moment for that for me was because I know the same thing you're talking about, because I had the thought there, but then it led back to what the dad talked about, which is like, you've never had the fight in you never did. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, the way I saw it was, this is what Huey wants to do, but because of his nature, he never will.
He does.
yeah,
Right?
well, and that's what we had talked about, is
Right.
like, after seeing a couple, well, especially after he kills Translucent, he says something and it was like, oh, okay, so this they were just trying to show that.
Yeah, he has that violence in him. He just has never.
Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, exactly. And so therefore, whenever I got beat in the head over that, I was like, okay, cool. But I could also see how it could be taken the way you were describing as well. I could definitely see that
Yeah.
as well. Where it's like, well, you've never had the fight in you, and then it's like, well, this has just been contained this entire fucking time. You know,
Yeah.
just
I really
waiting to
thought-
fucking unleash.
Gosh, I don't want to just call her Homelander's mommy, but that's what she is.
Yeah, I can't remember her fucking name either.
Me
I'm gonna look
either.
it up.
I never cared.
Call her corporate mommy.
Corporate mommy. I
Oh,
thought that corporate
Ugh.
mommy was gonna have like brain control powers,
Ooh,
because there's one scene where Homelander's like freaking out, and then she sits down next to him and like rubs his hair,
Yeah.
and he just calms down, and I'm like, oh, that would be a really good power for her to have, is that like, if she touches someone, she can manipulate their emotions. So that way, like, if she's ever been like negotiating with someone, she brushes their hand and all of a sudden they're more agreeable, you know, and that's like her secret power and then she got her eyes burnt out. And then the other thing is, she had this baby, and I was like, well, that baby definitely has laser eyes for sure. There's no world in which her baby is not a secret super baby.
Right.
And then there were super babies. It just wasn't her super baby.
So
and I
two
was really
things.
disappointed.
Yeah.
One, her name was Madeline.
Madeline.
That was it.
And two, if you don't want a huge spoiler alert to who Black Noir is, do not look up the cast of The Boys. That's all I'm saying. Because he is unmasked and out there. So.
Oh yeah, Mandy showed it to me while
Okay.
we were doing this.
Okay.
Oh, well,
I
I'm
know
the
the
only one who
actor's
doesn't know,
name.
so.
Yes. Yeah, so there you go.
Oh wait, is that a spoiler? I just
Well,
was
Kelsey
curious
had
who the
this
actor
whole, like,
was.
huge hope in her fucking mind that it was going to be like Ryan Reynolds or some shit.
Oh,
And so I
who
didn't
is
want
that?
to.
Ryan
I didn't want to kill your innocence for you. I don't know who he is, but yeah, it's just some random fucking guy. I've never seen him before,
Okay.
honestly. But
He
it's,
does a really good job of acting in a mask.
yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, I guess I get the black thing now because he is African, so I'm guessing that's what that is. I don't really know, but yeah,
I just think that it's that their names have zero subtlety to them. So
that's
yeah.
that's why I'm saying that. That's what I'm saying.
I wear
Yeah.
a black suit, so you're Black Noir then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like I'm black and I wear a black suit. Okay, cool. Black. There we go. Black. All right.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I actually thought for a long time that Madeline was a retired super, because they did talk about the fact that certain supers just they're done for whatever reason, because that was
Yeah.
the whole
Lamplighter.
like freak out behind Lamplighter, but also that was the whole freak out for A-Train, was that he was going to be retired because somebody else was going to be faster.
Yeah.
And so I legitimately thought she was a mind control super that had been retired and was
Yeah.
now specifically in her role specifically because she could control Homelander.
Mm.
Yeah. as corporate mommy.
as corporate mommy.
Oh,
Yeah, I was so
Oh.
confused about the whole breastfeeding thing.
I wasn't.
Can I just
confused
say
by it. I
that
understood what they were going for. Like, I got it.
Yeah.
This is not a subtle show. It did not have shades of delicacy.
No, that's true. I just,
It's-
yeah, they
it's
were
just
not
like-
afraid to make you cringe.
Yeah. I think that was very much just telling you something about Homelander's character.
And
Yeah,
that's something else that I
that's
want to
true.
point on Homelander. His actual fucking hero name is stupid. Like, I thought it was just Homelander. It's actually the Homelander.
Yeah.
Just like Deep is the Deep. Like, I got that, but the Homelander, like, I just get out of here.
Terrible.
Yeah, nonsense.
Terrible
Well, I
names.
kind of like that all of the supers do kind of have like doofy names. Like, they're not very good names. Like, Homelander's
Yeah.
not a good name. Queen Mav is actually not a
Maeve.
good name. Maeve, yeah, is not really a great name, you know?
Yeah.
A-Train is also just stupid. Like, such a
Oh.
dorky name.
And all of their costuming is like directly on the nose. Like it is pointed and intense what they're trying to make you feel for those characters.
Yeah.
There's
well,
no.
and who they're trying to emulate.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Black
Definitely.
Noir is the shit, though. His costume was so sick. I was like, okay.
His costume is just a black mask with black. He's just
So great.
tactical black.
Yep, so great. I loved it. I loved every part of it. Every part of it. I was like, this is my guy,
So
dude. This is my
hokey.
guy. Anyways,
Honestly, I wondered if he was going to be the one that you attached to. That
Yes.
was my guess.
yes.
Yep.
I mean, to be fair, my favorite person is Billy. Like, there's no difference about it. But if I
Yeah.
had to pick a super, Black Noir is that's my dude. He's a fucking badass. He's a
That
fucking
fits.
badass. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. This was one hell of a conversation. I'm glad that we chose to do this review show the second. So, anyways.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this content, make sure you like and subscribe. Also turn on those notifications. That way you get notified every time we upload another video. Also make sure you want to help us out. Share us around. If you got some friends that watch The Boys and kind of want a little bit of a deeper dive and hear some other people's perspective on it, I think that this was a very, very good show that we just did here. We went to a lot of different avenues. We had some intelligent conversations. So I definitely think that this is some good content to kind of throw out there. Also, make sure that you hit us on the direct forms of communication, like the Twitters, or come watch us play some games on the Twitches. But at the end of all this, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.